What's going on YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. As you guys can see by the title, we're finally going to be installing the Crankhub bolt capture from Vargas turbos today. It's a fairly simple DIY if you have the right tools, of course. But thank you guys for clicking on this video. I invite you to hit that like button, that subscribe button, and let's get into this DIY. Getting into it, this is the actual Vargas turbos VTT Crankhub bolt capture plate itself. So what we're going to be doing is removing 8 bolts from the actual factory crank hub itself, and then we're going to put this over it, make sure it's seated properly, make sure the holes align, and then we're going to be screwing in. This is a 6mm Allen head bolt that Vargas provides, and then I just went over to Lowe's and grabbed a little attachment for all my hand tools and sockets right here, which I laid out for you guys. The reason why we're doing this is preventative maintenance slash half peace of mind. Everybody knows that your stock crank hub can still spin if you do all the wrong things and if you are super unlucky, but this helps the bolt from backing out more so than it would if you didn't have this on. So that is what we're going to be doing today. This costs $100 compared to the crank hub job, which could range from, I would say in Florida, like $3,000 to $4,000 to fix it and replace it, labor, oil, everything. This is $100 that you can do yourself, so that's what we're opting to do. I'm stage 2 right now, and if I personally went over stage 2, I would actually get the crank hub job done and get mine replaced. But since I'm comfortable with stage 2 power, I don't plan on going anything above that. This CBC plate is a good temporary fix for me. That's what we're opting to do. Here are the tools that you guys are gonna need. Gloves, optional headlight, flashlight. I have a bunch of attachments for my sockets and wrenches. You're gonna need like a 10mm, 8mm, maybe an E10 Torx bit right here, and then just a bunch of different hand sockets and attachments because we're gonna be doing this all by hand. So it's going to be a really tight space, so you're going to need some attachments, some short ones, some medium ones. You're also going to need a torque wrench because we're going to be torquing these down to 25 foot-pounds, and then just another wrench right here to save you guys some watch time and then me some editing time. I took off the plastic skid plate and the oil pan right here. And this was super easy. All you really need is like an 8mm, which I have on this drill right here. I think you need like a T25 or T30. And then I have a 60mm on my impact gun right there. And then this is held in by I think 8 or 9 60mm bolts. I think there's like another 10 or so 8mm bolts, just the typical OEM BMW ones. Once you're under the car, this is super straightforward, super easy to get off. And then the skid plate itself is also held in by 4 8mm. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then it's held in by 2 T30s. Right there, and those go on each side, and then this plastic skid plate should come right out. This is actually what a lot of people replace with the new Turner one. That's aluminum, protects your oil cooler a lot more. And the last thing you're gonna need is some blue Loctite, and then obviously you're just gonna need to jack up your car. I have 2 jacks on both sides, 2 jack stands, and 2 ramps, so I will bring you guys underneath and show you guys what we're working with. All right, before we get into this video, I gotta thank today's sponsor, Simply Carbon Fiber. Simply Carbon Fiber has been so great to work with so far. As you guys can see here, I have been using my slim wallet that they sent me that is fully carbon fiber for a couple weeks now, and I absolutely love it. I got my ID, a couple cards, debit cards, credit cards, and then I have cash on the back right here. Don't worry, I'm not trying to flex on anybody. My birthday's next week, so I got a little bit of birthday money. I absolutely love my slim wallet. You guys can see it shining, shimmering, and glossing with the different light, but it is super badass. I've had a couple of the homies already give me compliments on them, so make sure you guys use my code FH10. It'll be the first link in the description and you'll get 10% off. They're actually sending me out some sunglasses as well as a new phone case, so I'm super hyped to show you guys that. And I've actually been in the market for a watch, and they actually have jewelry as well, and they have a super dope black watch that I'll put on the screen now. And I think might have to cop myself that because it looks legit and suits my style for sure. All right, but do me a solid, guys. Check out their website. Use my code. But I wanted to thank them for sponsoring today's video. Now let's get back into this DIY. Hey, I took one of my LED lights off the wall. And now we have tons of light under here. So what you guys are looking at now is what you'll see once you take the oil pan and the skid plate off, which goes right here, protects the oil cooler. It's also a good time for you to clean the underside if you see any debris, leaves, or anything that you want to take out. But the oil pan goes right under there where you drain the oil. And then where we're gonna be working at today is obviously a really tight space. I don't know if you guys are gonna be able to see it from this angle, but we're gonna be working right up there, which is where the pulley and the crank hub actually are. So the last thing we need to do is remove this fan shroud. It's held in by 2 T25s, 1 and then 2. And then we're gonna snake this hose off of the frame itself and that's going to allow us to fit our wrists or our hands through. And then we're pretty much going to be doing this job kind of blind because we're going to be limited on space. But yeah, let's take off this fan shroud right here and then catch up with you guys after that. I removed the fan shroud. It's again 2 T25s. There's one under here and there's one over to the side, and this is what it looks like. You have one on the bottom and then one up to the side a little bit. And then that is gonna give you, sorry, I'm talking upside down right now. That's gonna give you access right here. That right there, my friends, is where your crank hub is located. You can't see it, but I will record on my iPhone for you guys to show you guys what it looks like. But it's basically your crank hub, and then it's held in by 8 E10 bolts. They're not torqued down pretty heavy, so it is fairly easy to get them out. I already went ahead and got started myself. I used a little socket right here with an extension, and my E10 wasn't fitting at first, which I have right here on another ratchet. But I basically had a little ratchet extension, an 8mm, and I was basically doing this blind, but I was able to get out so far 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of the crank hub bolts themselves. Again, these are like E10s, the star bits. But if you don't have that, an 8mm works. So let me record on my iPhone real quick and show you guys what exactly I'm doing. Without taking the fan out itself, you're working in a very tight space, so your arms will get, you know, scraped a little bit, but it's nothing too bad. Once you know where to feel around for, taking these out is pretty easy. But yeah, let me show you guys an iPhone video so it's better to reference. Recording on my iPhone right now. And here's the crank hub itself. As you guys can see, I took out the bottom 5 already, and we just have the top 3 to do. But yeah, it is a very tight space, but they come out fairly easy. Once these bolts are out, we're going to be slipping on the VTT CBC plate, and then we're going to line up these holes hopefully, and then we're just going to be screwing it back in to torque, which is again 25 foot-pounds of torque. But I will catch up with you guys when I get these last 3 out. All right, there she goes. All 8 bolts are out of the stock hub. Man, this one, the last one, gave me the toughest time. It was at the very top, and damn, you're a bitch. Now we should be good to put the Vargas CBC plate up there over top of it. Take our iPhone or take your camera and see if the holes are lined up before we start threading them in by hand, and then we should be able to tighten them using a torque wrench, which should be easy, but let's get it lined up first. So the 8 E10 bolts are out, and then we're going to be replacing them with, again, these 6mm Allen head key bolts from Vargas. And then here is the actual crank hub bolt capture plate itself. Don't forget, we're going to be using some blue Loctite on these, and we're going to be cranking it down to 25 foot-pounds of torque. But this is actually going to go right on top of the hub itself, and similar to a wheel, you just want to make sure the holes line up before you put these in. And what we're going to do is we're going to hand tighten them one by one, and then once they're about hand tightened and I can't turn them anymore, we're going to torque them down in a star pattern, similar to like when you're doing a wheel and the lugs over there. So we're going to go crisscross in a star pattern until they're fully seated. So I'll get my iPhone out and I'll show you guys once we get this aligned on the hub. Also, if you have some brake cleaner, you can spray these bolts down, because any oil or anything like that is just going to negate any of the thread locker that you put on. All right, so we are going to watch this together, see what we see. At first glance, it looks like it needs to be adjusted to the right a little bit. I don't know if you guys will be able to tell from the video, but it looks like, yeah, the holes are to the right. I'm actually going to try to twist the plate itself to the right. Otherwise, I'm just going to have to take it off and put it back on and then see how we go from there. So I spun it around another couple times, and then this looks perfect. All the holes are aligned. Looks like they're seated properly. It only goes onto the hub like one way, so you just got to spin it, keep spinning it a couple times. But I am happy with this. I'm going to start hand tightening these after I put some blue Loctite on them, and then we are going to torque them down. So we just got all the bolts in, and then here should be the last video before we torque it to spec. Let's see what we see here. All right, looks like all 8 bolts are lined up. It's seated on the hub really nicely. It actually like snaps in. So as you guys can see there, everything looks properly aligned. So now we just gotta torque it down to 25 foot-pounds and then wrap this one up. Hopefully I have enough room to fit my hands. That's been the most difficult part of this job so far. But overall, once you get the OEM bolts out, it's pretty straightforward from there. All right, we are back on my phone now. We're on the wide angle mode, so you guys will be able to see it. But we just torqued down everything to spec. So I'm just doing a final look around, make sure everything looks like it's threaded in properly. but I'm gonna review this video a little more. Check your progress of your work. Looks pretty good, but let's review it. As you guys just saw, I had my phone up there seeing if everything looked tightened up, which it does. I went around in a star pattern and then I went around again in just like a circle pattern, just to make sure everything was nice and torqued to spec, which it was. So I think we are good to go. Just gonna check one more time, make sure everything's tightened on properly, and then we're gonna put the whole car back together. Yo, new swag. Overall, not too bad. I'm just gonna be buttoning up everything, putting the oil pan back on, skid plate, and then also don't forget to put your little fan shroud on right here. Again, it's held in by like 2 T25s. Just like that, car is back on the ground. Everything is buttoned up. All the tools are put away. If you guys don't have any holes in your gloves, then you guys probably didn't do it right. As you guys can see, it's a mess. And then your boy is wetting. Definitely not a hard job, but definitely not an easy job because of how little room you do have to work with. Even with like having smaller hands and skinnier arms, it'll still get you on your forearm and all over on both sides. So just be warned. But honestly, I am super happy right now that everything went pretty smooth. Shout out to Jonathan Wang, aka Thousands, for answering some of the questions that I had when I got stuck. There's also a YouTube video that I will link in the description below. That helped me out a ton as well. Shout out to that guy. I think he's the only one on YouTube that has a DIY for this job. And then there's also a great write-up on Beamer Post that I will link in the description as well. The write-up on Beamer Post actually took off the intake on top, and then he took off the fan and then lifted it. But that looked like a lot of work, and honestly I didn't want to do all that, so I squeezed my arm as much as I could on the bottom side. And then the hardest part honestly was trying to fit all my torque wrenches and ratchets in between the fan and then the hub itself. You don't have a lot of room to work with, so I ended up using a ratchet down here along with my torque wrench. But that is why some people opt to remove the intake and then do it from the top side, because you can remove the fan and then you have more room to work with. But hey, we made it work and we saved money on labor. I've read on Beamer Post that the going rate for this job is about 3 hours of labor. So you factor in, let's say $150 to $100 an hour. Your boy just saved 500, 300 bucks. So can't be upset with that. Wheels looking good. But overall, another DIY done in the garage. But I'm tired. I'm just super happy to have like the peace of mind now, knowing that I'm stage 2, I'm pushing more power, but I also have this Crankhub bolt capture plate on just for some extra added level of protection and some peace of mind. Obviously, as a DTT owner, our Crankhubs are more prone to spinning, but I know what to avoid. I hope you guys know what to avoid as well. If you don't, reach out to me. I'll be sure to answer any DMs or comments that you guys have. But for DCT owners, avoid downshifting at high RPMs and very fast. And then also don't use the kickdown feature. Those are just the many cases of people spinning their hubs. So just try to avoid all that. But yeah, I'm gonna wrap up this video now. Gonna take it for a test drive, so I'll report back to you guys how the car feels in the next video. All right, but that's gonna wrap it up for this Monday video. I hope you guys enjoyed. I actually have another mod coming in today, so stay tuned for that video. It'll probably be out on Friday or the following Monday. I still gotta film the F80 Paul Flame Tune video, so I have a couple more fun videos coming soon, so don't miss out. Make sure you guys hit that like button, that subscribe button, and we'll see you on the next video. Take care. Peace.